Yo, so what's going on, you handsome devils? How's the meat and potatoes doing today? Battlefielders, how you doing? Today is the first episode of BF3 Loadouts. Now, this is something I've been wanting to do for a while, something I've been trying to train myself to do. And it's kind of weird to say that I need to train myself to do this, but I've always wanted to try to help you guys become better players, and it's not like this game just came out or anything. So, I was kind of against creating this, but I felt like it was more reasonable to do with Black Ops 2 and Battlefield 3, my two favorite games, to be able to show what was going on and explain why I do certain loadouts, why it suits my playstyle, and help you guys. There are a lot of commentators out there that tell you the stats of a weapon. They run it down right off of a website and tell you exactly what each gun is capable of, but what they do not tell you and what they cannot tell you is why and how to use it. Now, that's what I want to try to run over through the BF3 loadouts. Now, today, I'm currently running the G36C. I've got the holographic sight equipped, and I also have the hard barrel. Oh, hard barrel. Oh, yeah, I got one of those too. The heavy barrel. Oh, God, Pone, go back to COD, dude. You can't even name the shit right. I know, guys. Don't give me the hard barrel or anything, but... and the heavy barrel. Now, heavy barrel is obviously something you want to use on basically every one of the guns in the engineer category. But what I'm definitely wanting to teach you guys about this weapon is this is probably my favorite loadout, and it's my favorite loadout not only on this map, but this playstyle as well, or on this, Conquest, if you will. I rarely post Conquest. Hell, this may be your first time ever seeing me play Conquest. I play it here and there with friends when they're playing it, but for the most part, when I'm playing it, I'm probably on a large map trolling. Shut up, phone. And that's usually the extent of, you know, my experience on Conquest. But when I'm actually playing certain maps, there's certain loadouts I like to use, and the reason I like to do so is because I want to teach you guys what I do. Now, when using this weapon right here, this is my favorite weapon in the engineer category. The G36C outperforms most in close to medium range, and I can't statistically tell you why. I mean, statistically, you'll see some weapons like the M4A1 that absolutely just demolish this gun on a, you know, side-to-side comparison. But one thing that you have to acknowledge is no matter how great something is, it may not outperform the other weapon in certain circumstances. Take, for example, you'll sit there and watch a video and somebody will tell you that the M416, the AEK, and the M16A3 are the strongest weapons in the game. And right now, I would not argue with it at all. That is what I'd go with. But would you use that in Conquest Domination? Would those guns be more logical to use over a SPAS 12 or a P90? I don't think so. You're going to run into people a lot more often. It's going to be a lot more close range. Those weapons will not outperform the MP7 in direct close combat. It's not going to happen. So, are you possible to get the kills? Yeah. Is it the right class to use? No. So what you got to understand is with the flurry of people out there trying to tell you what guns are best, you got to not only try those weapons to see how you do with them, but you got to keep your mind open and try other weapons so you find ones that actually work well for you. And that's where the G36 pops in with me. The G36 feels very similar to how the UMP does in this game. Anybody that's ever used the UMP understand that it's quite a beast, understand that I guess it performs well in close range, is pretty reliable at medium range, but the drop-off and the danger on long range is really, really slim, which is part of the reason why I'm using the holographic sight. A lot of people tend to stay away from this holographic sight, but I like to use it in close combat. This one and the red dot sight are my two favorite sights because I like to know where the general area is going to hit, and the reason I prefer the holographic is because this gun does not perform well at long range. Obviously, you can get kills, you need to burst fire, but that's what I like to use it for. It's great in close range, great with hip fire, but more importantly with the holographic sight, it kind of lets you know exactly where the majority of your bullets can go. Suppression really, I guess, makes your bullets fly away from where they're actually supposed to be intended, and burst firing with a weapon like this really, really does pay attention. So when you put this body, or when you put the sight center mass, you actually get to blast these guys as best as you think you can. And that's something you got to pay attention to. That's why I actually rely on this sight on close to medium range weapons, because you get just kind of a general feel. I don't know where that guy teleported to. He must have crossed knowing I was in there. But maybe pulled a hamstring or something. He just went down, cramped out, and sunk to the bottom. Who knows? Maybe the support packs, those ammo packs that nobody ever drops, weighed him down. We'll see. But that's why I like to use this. Even more importantly, is something that people do not like to use is when you put this into single shot. That's why the holographic can actually be somewhat useful. You still have that center area in the thing where you have that little tiny red dot sight, which still allows you to be reliable at long range if you are willing and competent enough to put it into single shot. And that's just something I want to, usher in there, something to encourage you guys to use this kind of gun when you're playing a certain playstyle, which is exactly why I'm using it on this map. Now, fail patty cake to the patty cake! Oh, Mr. Mortar, go away. And then my teammate right here, Farva, team kills me just being a troll. But that's one thing that I want to teach you guys about, is when to use the guns and what situations. Now, would I use this gun on Firestorm? No. M4 will poop on it. QBZ poops on it. There's so many different weapons that are outperforming this weapon in that kind of map like that because of the range and distance. This gun is reliable as an engineer weapon on maps like Metro, Seine Crossing, and Grand Bazaar. You'd be surprised, especially the Grand Bazaar and Seine Crossing, how important the engineer category is, not only for the ability to disable some vehicles when you're playing Conquest, but even some of them do some heavy work when it's regular rush as well. Look at me just how quickly I took that guy down a close hip fire. That's what I'm saying. This gun is dangerous, and it definitely is something that I like to use when I'm playing on a map like this. Even more importantly, on those two maps, what I was trying to say is you have the RPGs. The RPGs are dangerous. Not only do they take the armor out, but every one of the buildings in this thing is basically debrisable. Basically, you could shoot at the buildings, knock the walls down, kill guys below it. Give me the man tags, Mr. Guy. And that's one of the most important parts of using this class. That's why this is my go-to loadout when I'm playing Seine Crossing or I'm playing Grand Bazaar, whether it be rush or anything like that, because that extra ability to kill people, to get people that are behind cars or vehicles or any sort of cover, you could do a lot of work with that thing as long as you think outside of the box. Now, I understand that a lot of people like the comfortable weapons, like to know that they have the strongest weapons like the M4 in their hand. But everybody has their own preferences, and this is the one that I prefer. If you've never tried this loadout, definitely give it a try. Like, that's all I can encourage is you guys to try the loadout yourself. Get back to me. Let me know what you think about it. The G36C is definitely probably the most underrated weapon in the category. I see a lot of other weapons used. I like the G53. I think that's a little bit more reliable in medium range. But when you wrap everything up, you have the small in your hand, a little green crayon of death that you can kill people with. You have something like that, that's fine too. As you guys saw a little bit earlier too, I definitely do take use of my MP443. And the reason I use the MP443 is in case I get in those congested areas where we are fighting 4 or 5 people at a time. You run into an entire squad, you're going to kill 1 or 2 guys with your primary. I like having a secondary that I know can actually burn through people. And even more importantly is when using that weapon, it's got a quick reload, but it's also quite dangerous. You know, whip, whip, boom. You're back right in the fight and you're ready to do that kind of stuff. Obviously, it drips off on damage when it comes down to distance. It's not too reliable. But when you're ever in congested areas, because of the quick reload speed and because it's reliable and it does have 18 shots with it, it's a reliable pistol, and my personal favorite in the entire game. A lot of people like to go with the 44 because it's so dangerous, but you run into 3 or 4 guys at a time, you're not going to kill 3 or 4 guys. Now, with that gun, you can probably drop 2 guys, reload quickly, and get the next one in. But with the 44, it's highly unlikely. You may not even kill 1 guy with one of the entire, I guess, sets. And that's the proof right there about how important the small is. Just made this awesome play, pulled it together, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I had the assault class. You know, there are lots of great guns out there, but you got to play the classes you want, play the map. That's what I'm doing right now is I'm playing the map and playing the game type. I know this gun is going to be sticking me to heavily congested areas. I know I'm going to be on the objective a lot, which means there's going to be a lot of close quarter situations. Because of this map, I know that there are only a couple areas where it is long range, and that's down the long alleys, and that's down the bridge. But as long as I avoid those situations where other guns can outperform mine, I'm going to have the advantage. So stick to your playstyle, play how you need to play, and that's why I choose this weapon is because I am aggressive. This gun generally beats on most of the other guns that are in close range. Medium range is reliable when you burst fire. Long range with the holographic sight and single fire, it's not a bad weapon. But again, I mean, like I said, you got to use it to where its, I guess, strengths are visible. But that's pretty much all I've got to say on this topic. I want to thank you guys for watching. Be sure to drop a comment down in the section below on what weapons you would like to see next. I'm going to pick one at random, throw it up every week, and talk to you guys about how I like to use it, what maps I like to use it on, and so on and so forth. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Again, I mean, it's just a different feel, and I know it's a little bit late, but I'd like to teach you guys a little bit about it. I see a lot of people, you know, being level 100s, you know what I mean? They've played this game for so long, and they're still using the M16s, and they don't understand that you can actually switch it up and still be a beast with it. You don't have to use the strongest guns in the game simply because they're the strongest guns in the game. Other guns can outperform those guns in certain situations, so why not try something else? You'd be amazed at how good the QBZ is, you know what I mean? You'd be amazed to see how good the AK-74M is. And those can easily be interchanged between the strongest weapons. I mean, of course, they're slightly worse, but they can still perform at a level that you're going to beat most people as long as you're a skilled player. You don't need to rely and crutch on the strongest weapons in the game just to do so. So that's just my preach. I'm not trying to dish on everybody that only uses those weapons. I mean, it annoys the hell out of me and may complicate things why we have a giant arsenal of weapons to choose from and you just stick with one. It always kind of confuses me, but that's just me. I like to try different weapons, and that's exactly what led me to believe that the G36 is probably the best weapon in the category for me. And, you know, the M4 is actually, which most would consider the strongest weapon, is actually probably like number 6 on my list. I prefer the SGG, or the SG553, or the G right before that. Those two are both very similar weapons. But again, I mean, there's so many different things, and you won't ever know what is good for you until you play with it. And watch this guy come out of nowhere like a wild fucking Pokemon. What a dick. Only in Battlefield. Peace out, guys. I love your face.